Hey guys, so welcome back to the Greatest Attorney 2. Let's carry on where we left off. We're in the final stretch of this trial and perhaps even the game, as we formally accuse Lord Strongheart of being the Reaper of the Bailey. It's about time we cut Long Strongheart down to size. All we need is some evidence. Unfortunately, he's covered his tracks quite well, having arranged for an assassin exchange among other things. Apparently there was nobody left to testify, but that is not correct. Of course, we've brought Professor Mikatoba to the stand. He's the one who actually penned the autopsy report of Clint Van Zeeks, and I may have found a contradiction. And perhaps proven the existence of fabricated evidence that would have resulted in putting Genshin Asogi to the gallows, basically. So, let's go ahead and present that as, of course, his ring that was found in Clint Van Zeeks' stomach. A ring that is so prickly, you'd think that there would be at least some more internal injuries, but there wasn't. Nothing questionable at all, Gory says, so let's present this and contradict her.
Objection!
The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach, but you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikatoba? That's right. As I said in my testimony before, at that moment, I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson had requested. In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, counsel? That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It's entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy. What are you saying? That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it there and then in the victim's stomach.
Objection!
You can't object to me, you're my client. Supposition at best. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim? This evidence, right here. That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in that report, counsel. Other than the ring, nothing unusual was noted internally, so I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point. You just proved my point, Strongheart. Thank you very much. You've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all. What? To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. He didn't even chew it. And in addition to its size, there are the sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with. My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure his stomach was so determined not to get cut up as he swallowed this ring. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice. But if he really had swallowed that enormous ring, it's inconceivable that no traces of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma. No. Mikatoba, your professional medical opinion, please. And there you've arrived at the sticking point. That's precisely why I had my doubts about the findings myself 10 years ago. Then why didn't you say something at the time? Because he was just a student, I guess, who would listen to him. And, you know, he was friends with the accused. I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day. Look at this! Now this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? Absolutely curious. I can't believe it was there. Literally. But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikatoba? Well, if you swallowed a ring of that size with those sharp metal claws that it has, surely you'd expect to see damage to the throat and esophagus. Torn mucous membranes at the very least. Dr. Mikatoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you. I'm terribly sorry. Exactly, right? I can think of plenty of ways to explain why no injuries would be seen. No, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Write that down, real quick. Go ahead, write it down. Exactly, I can... Oh man, I already know the script Wilson would have produced. So I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. I'm disappointed, counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science and autopsy work. There is no scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified, even in living subjects. Using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay. Get her one, damn it! I don't think so. We're not paying for shit. And Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished. All of you are going to suffer punishment. There's going to be nobody left. I'm going to need some new lawyers. Are you threatening me holding a cleaver and a scalpel? Okay. We open up the dead to find the truth. I beg your pardon. Don't make me cut you up and find the truth inside you, Lord Strongheart. But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up, with all her secrets inside. That's wrong. Okay, thank you for that interlude. Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama. Everyone's just whispering now. Can I have some of that, please? I need it. This trial is stressful. Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident. What incident? The one I recounted to you before. About a memory I have. Right, the ambush you guys suffered. Is that when he lost his ring? Of Ryunosuke saving my life. What? My father saved your life? And that's how you repaid him? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep, you're coming with us! There's the ring right there. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. Oof. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Are you saying... I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack. And in that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found. You mean... the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night? Damn.
Objection!
The injustice of it all! Oh god. Kazuma, this might be too much for him. You pathetic coward. You expect me to believe that you weren't involved? What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. Kazuma, please, stop tunnel visioning. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as a mass murderer and have him arrested. Kazuma, remember who our enemy is? Kazuma. Open your eyes. Ryunosuke. You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? Damn it. I'm gonna need to rescue you. I need to give you some fog glasses, man. Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face. As if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you've thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born out of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asogi not have disputed the findings in his trial? Oh. In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Why is that, though? Was he protecting someone? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. I mean, what else was he supposed to do, I guess? None of you guys were listening to him, and he was in a foreign land. The actions of a man who has accepted responsibility for his deeds and is resigned to his fate. But then... Oh my, that is very strange. If Mr. Asogi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then... that would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence. An obvious conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asogi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Ugh. Genshin Asogi's silence at his hearing can mean only one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. Maybe he was threatened, blackmailed, you know? Maybe they threatened to go after his family if he didn't quietly accept the charge. There's gotta be something. But if that autopsy was all above board, there'll be nothing to stop Lord Strongheart bringing this trial to an immediate conclusion.
Objection!
Wouldn't be a finalist attorney trial without all these montages. Oh, damn, that was a big one. Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now. This trial may very well have ended prematurely. I guess he's gonna slice through the fog with his sword. Kazuma? What's this latest absurdity, Counsel? My lord. Your reasoning is perfectly sound. But for one giant hole. I beg your pardon. You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. But there's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
Oh. Silence that would lead him to being convicted and sent to his death? If the autopsy results were an invention, there's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
Oh, those results were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that two people with a connection to that autopsy have been assassinated? If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion these 10 years. Me. Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. If we can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in his trial. A reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Could it have been part of some negotiation, perhaps? Enough rhetoric! The court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Asogi's silence in court? The Asogi papers. I, Genshin Asogi, hereby request that upon my death, any and all material possessions and wealth belonging to me in London be delivered to my son, Kazuma Asogi, in the Empire of Japan. It is with deep sadness that I accept my fate in this foreign land in the knowledge that I will never see my homeland or family again, but I regret nothing about my chosen path. Could it be this? He wanted to guarantee that his possessions would be delivered to Kazuma? For whatever reason? Let's try that. This is the defense's answer to that question. Okay, never mind. As I indicated before, my patience for rhetoric is growing thin. You could have at least accompanied that penalty with an explanation of why that answer was wrong. If Kazuma-sama's father knew that the evidence being used to convict him was fabricated, why would he have said nothing in his trial? If it were me, I'd have protested my innocence until I was blue in the face. So if we're right about the autopsy results, there must have been a strong reason for his silence. Well then, perhaps he was saying nothing in exchange for some sort of clemency? That could be it. My lord, the defense would like to... Enough rhetoric. Yep, okay. In exchange for clemency? Have I got anything that explains that? What do I present here? Ah, okay. How about this? Indications are that the jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. So he'd been planning to escape from prison and, well, he needed to go to prison, so to speak, to make his great escape. Is that it? Could be. Because, I mean, he had no chance of fighting the charges if everything was stacked against him, right? Let's try this. It's true that Genshin Asogi's silence during his trial resulted in his conviction. But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. There we go. Although I find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way, the defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. The notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was in planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. There. Oh my god. That took me so long to find because I was too focused on the last half of the evidence that I completely forgot we had stuff relevant to the case 10 years ago at the front. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Asogi and the British government. In exchange for his silence in court, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, with that sort of clandestine agreement in place, I can imagine he would have kept very quiet. I would go further than that, in fact. I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Asogi can be explained in no other way. Okay, but someone didn't like that the government was helping him. Order! Order! First fabricated evidence and now a jailbreak conspiracy. Of course, because it's the final trial. I mean, it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses? People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Ugh. Governor Caden and the poor chief warder of the prison. I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce. To summon the governor of the prison after all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. He's also here. What? Father. My dear friend may appear a little rattle-patted at times, but I can assure you he is extremely thorough. That's right, he's your friend. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier. Asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency. Mr. Sholmes did that? That's the preparations, is that it? Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm much mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment. Then Mikatoba's smile. God, I love this man. My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Unless, of course, that truth leads to you. Very well, bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than to lay this business to rest once and for all. I feel like he chose those words very carefully. Alright, we're coming at you. Look at our army we've amassed down below. Okay, Governor Caden, Vigil, and Van Zeeks, who's noticeably distant from the rest of them. Would the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please? I, Barry Caden, Governor of Barclay Prison. Everyone calls me Gossip. I sell jaunty little tidbits to passers-by. Your other persona, if you don't mind. Oh, I do beg your pardon. Of course. We had to fade to black so he could get into character. My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called Professor 10 years ago.
Losh, the Professor? We've already been through all this before, a decade ago. And the conclusion was that there was anything untoward happened.
Why were you sweating just now? A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you'd call nothing untoward.
Well.
The convict's death certificate was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed, and he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. If it turns out that you were involved in the plot to break Mr. Asogi out of your prison, then of course, the consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment.
Gads, hold on there, laddie. All I did was witness Governor Caden. Aye, sir.
You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country. A great responsibility to shoulder. Protect me, damn it. The significance of your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Asogi, if you threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court. Well, at least he got a warning. My apologies, my lord. There's no disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly, you were both involved in some way. So you will testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. Very well. Let the witnesses give their formal testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break Asogi out of Barclay 10 years ago. Here goes. A deep dive into the past. The jailbreak plot.
It was the day that Japanese jock was found guilty. The directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder vigil here and put the plan into action behind the scenes.
I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot.
I didn't ken if there was some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire.
Alright. For Her Majesty the Queen, God rest her soul. A directive from the prosecutor's office? Are you saying that was the jailbreak plot?
Aye, that's right.
Who sent it? Who authorized that plan?
I can tell you. I didn't ken that.
You're saying you don't know?
Listen, there was no thing about that professor case that was no unusual in some way. I didn't ask any questions, I just did what I was told to do. More than that, I couldn't tell you.
I see. But if the jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office, then one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi admitting to crimes he didn't commit. Why is there such a huge cover-up behind this case? What's up with this beast that killed people? The Hound of the Baskervilles. Like, why did they need someone like, they were keen for Asogi to take the fall, and then, you know, get him out of the country, just to keep everything hush-hush, right? So, what the fuck? I mean, they clearly didn't want Asogi to be actually hung for the crime because they knew it was wrong, hence why the escape attempt. But why protect whatever this was? We haven't even got an inkling of this, right? Like, the only dog we've seen is Toby, and he didn't look that old, so I don't think he was around. Is it Have we got like missiles somewhere? Or something else going on? What's at play here? Sorry, I haven't really taken a breath to like theorize and come up with what exactly happened. Obviously someone shot him to shut him up. But who would it have been? You'd think it'd be Van Zeeks to get revenge for his brother, especially if the prosecutor's office was responsible for this. He'd have known. Or, I mean, the clear culprit would be Lord Strongheart, obviously, because he's responsible for everything else. That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part. So, let me ask the defense. Oh, yes, my lord, I do intend to exercise my right to cross-examine. I fail to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to a cross-examination? Why wouldn't I? I've got nothing to lose. Absolutely. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord. It seems all you Japanese are fiercely tenacious. Why do you think I abused the summation examination so much? Very well. Proceed, counsel. I shall. Thank you very much. Okay, again, nothing obvious from the outset. We may need to press some statements. Day the Japanese jock was found guilty. Directive came from the prosecutor's office. Signed the convict to the chief warder vigil here. Put the plan in action behind the scenes. You were responsible for Sogi around to tonight his execution. You knew nothing of the plot. You don't know if there was some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All you did was carry out your duty. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need to press like every statement here. Let's start at the beginning.
Hold it!
And you say you don't know who actually issued the directive? Aye, that's right. All I can be sure of is that it was official. But if it was from the prosecutor's office, that narrows down who could have issued it straight away. And it wasn't me. Can I even say with certainty that it did originate from the prosecutor's office? What? There's no telling where it started. There's a fair chance it came from higher up the ladder. Basically. Can I give you any indication of who was behind it? You can't be serious. All we can say for sure is that the order must have come from somebody in authority, I suppose. The likes of us on the ground, as it were, deny bother with idle speculation. We just get the job done. Right, and you got the job mostly done. I mean, he did escape, he just didn't escape alive. I assigned the convict to the chief warder. Tell me more. So, Mr. Vigil, you didn't know anything about it at all? That's right. My only role in the scheme was as a scapegoat. That's right. Isn't it, Governor? Damn, that's harsh. You fired him, you broke his, like, spirit. His mental health came crashing down all because you wanted a scapegoat? Some poor beggar had to take the rap for it. He was your chief warder. He was, like, loyal, wasn't he? And damn good at his job, from what I could tell. Alright then. Who else did know about the plan? I've no the first idea, laddie, and my part in the whole business was basically just dealing with the aftermath. But I wouldn't be surprised if there were other folk in the prison service who'd been given similar orders. So you don't know who else was involved? Aye, that's right. All I can tell you is that the night it actually happened, the person at the reins was Dr. Stevens. Dr. Courtney Stevens, or Dr. Scythe as she's known now. Why did I have to get caught up in such a terrible business? I don't know, man. I feel for you. I was responsible for Asogi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot. Did you not notice anything unusual happening in the lead up to that night? Oh, everything was unusual. Exception after exception. After all, it was the professor. The man had terrorized the country as never before with his crimes. In order to hide his identity, he was forced to wear an iron mask over his head. I wonder why he's referred to as the professor. If we've got, like, beast marks on people. You'd think he'd be known as the Hound. Hideous treatment. The fellow was surprisingly docile for someone who'd taken the lives of 5 of the country's nobles. Being the chief warder, I was the only person permitted to approach his cell. I can still hardly believe that I was duped by my own country. I believe you jumped from the window of the governor's office when the jailbreak was blamed on you, didn't you? I guess that's why Gregson felt for you. Losh, Vigil. Can I apologize enough? No, Governor. I don't believe you can. It won't change what's happened. I like that. Vigil's not forgiving him, because why should he? And what else can you tell us about the situation, Governor Caden? Surprised this guy's still alive. And I can, if there were some negotiations... But you've already acknowledged that orders came from the prosecutor's office to arrange for the man's escape. There must have been some sort of negotiation. It's the only explanation. Aye, well, be that as it may, I don't care nothing about that. The witness stand is no place for telling what you don't know for sure. I can that much, I do. Then I presume you also know this. Not telling what you do know is a criminal offense. We've had enough perjury today. So you were just following orders, is that it? I'm afraid that won't absolve you of guilt here. A man was still killed illegally, even if he was a condemned criminal. You may very well be found complicit in murder, Governor. So that's what it's to be, is it? Even with the threat of conviction, you won't break your silence. Oh, he's a stoic man. All you did was carry out your duty. Did you carry out the plan in its entirety? Aye, I did everything I could at the time. As you know, Genjin Asogi was shot dead in Lowgate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too? My instructions were to do with getting the jock out of the jail and nothing more. I can't tell you anything about what happened after that. Only, personally, I believe his death was the last part of the plan.
Excuse me.
You okay? Mr. Vigil, is something wrong? Yeah, I think something's wrong. Yes, sir, what can I do for you, sir? He's saluting now? What is it, some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Caden was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? Well, for the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors in the name of my country. Whew. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that the shooting of Mr. Asogi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan. What makes you think that? I mean, they just execute him. Why would you need to go through all that just to shoot him in the cemetery? Well, it just doesn't make sense, does it? To make the man admit to crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. That's treachery of the worst kind. But the point is, if the intention was always to betray him, why would there be any need for all the that of an escape? Chicaneries? I've never seen that word before, I'm afraid. Yes, that's quite true. Yeah, right? If whoever negotiated with Asogi never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler just to let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence. It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets that is Barclay, behind the high prison walls. I suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly. Someone knows. Dr. Scythe knows. We just refuse to put her on the stand for whatever reason. I mean, we know the reason, but you know what I mean. Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me. Huh? If you believe there was some kind of negotiation behind the jailbreak between Asogi and the body at the top, it doesn't quite add up, does it? Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have by amending your formal testimony. Gads! I go on then. Uh-oh. He's watching. Seems to me that the Japanese fella didn't have nothing to bargain with. Didn't have anything to bargain with. Didn't have anything to bargain with. Is now the time we present the Asogi papers? Let's just wait on that. Let's examine a little bit more. Alright, I'm doing it.
Objection.
I'm doing it. There we go. Confessing under oath to murders he didn't commit on a verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison, Genshin Asogi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There was nothing to stop the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that. Which means that Mr. Asogi must have had a trump card. His weapon that he had left. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon.
Heavens! The fella couldn't possibly have had anything like that.
But you know that he did, Governor. The Asogi Papers. The name given to the last will and testament of Genshin Asogi. Ugh. It turns out that Mr. Asogi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Warder Vigil caught him with it one day.
You squealed, did you wee rat? Did I not tell you to keep that a secret?
You can't touch me now! Right?
Gah!
Hey! When Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell, Mr. Asogi pleaded with the warder. Alright then. But what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A weapon. And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Well, yes. All the prison warders searched through the belongings in his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understand it, an exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Asogi Papers. Governor Kaden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you? I take it if Genshin made it back to Japan safely, he'd have told you guys where it was, so you didn't have to worry. But because he died, it's still out there, waiting to ruin all your asses. Hey? Would I be right in saying that you knew? You knew that the so-called Asogi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow.
Jings, what the blazes are you blithering about? The will was found right and proper. In the fella's cell where I said it would be.
But how could that be? Where in a cell? We all searched the place, from top to bottom.
Well, you didn't do a proper job, eh, you piggy wally gunner?
You can't criticize me now.
I showed it to you afore, did I know, yon lawyer?
Yes, you did. I have the document here. It's written in Japanese and reads, The Last Will and Testament of Genshin Asogi.
Which means everything is as it should be.
Not quite, my lord. You see, there's an undeniable inconsistency here. What? What inconsistency? Poor Kazumi, he's looking for anything, he's grasping. Mr. Asogi described this document as the only weapon he had left. And yet this will contains nothing of significance at all. Nothing that would have given the convict any leverage.
Are you suggesting, my learned friend, that it's fake? That the last will and testament stored at Barclay Prison all these years is actually a fake?
Yes. As has clearly been demonstrated already, what went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board.
That last vilification by the defense was an affront to the entire British legal system.
You're an affront to the entire British legal system.
This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least sorely mistaken.
What? No, I definitely heard him say that, I swear. Clearly we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi Papers.
A waste of time. If the will was fake, where is the real document?
Objection!
Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything. Very nearly his own life. And now you're going to do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself. It's clear that Barclay Prison is hiding something. It's clear that the jailbreak was masterminded by somebody in the prosecutor's office. It's clear that some illicit negotiations took place. Is your lordship just going to gloss over these obvious and reprehensible facts? What did you say? We should hear more from the chief warder. Have him testify again! The trial must go on! The man's voice must be heard! It would seem that a vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. Very well then. Let the witness testify again.